Hey there, beef lovers. Today we're going to be cooking another cut from the shoulder of the beef. This one's called a Petit tender. This is a pretty small steak, quarter to a third of a pound. And as you can see, it's not heavily marbled. This comes from the chuck area up near the head. This is a hard working muscle. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pat it dry. Both sides. Try to keep your cutting board clean. Next, we're going to put some salt and pepper on it. As always, we're going to salt and pepper both sides of the cut. Salt and pepper copiously because we're cooking it immediately. Because it's a lean cut, we're going to use a little bit of beef tallow. This is just tallow from the same animal. When we had it processed, we had the tallow cut from the beef. And now we're putting it in a hot pan. As you can see, this is a small lodge pan. It's about 4 or 5 inches, and it's hot. We're going to melt the tallow into the pan, and then we're going to take our pre-seasoned beef, and we're going to place it in the pan. I don't have a lot of fat in the pan. I have enough fat in the pan to keep the meat from sticking. I like to keep the meat moving so that it doesn't burn in places and we get more even cooking on either side. It's okay to press it down a little bit to try and maintain contact between the surface of the beef and the surface of the pan. As it cooks, we'll check it. When it looks brown enough, then we'll flip it. It's such a light little pan, it's sliding all over the stove. In case you're wondering, this is an induction cooktop. It's just a high-speed electric cooktop. It works as fast as a gas stove. I just don't happen to have gas service in my home. So this is the next best thing. I've decided the pan's a little bit dry here, so I'm going to add in a little bit more tallow. Help moisten the pan a little bit, help improve the non-stick surface of the cast iron. I'm going to check the underside of the cut that we're cooking. Add a little bit of butter. And we're going to let it continue to melt down. I'm going to do a little bit of basting just to make sure I'm happy with the coloring on the visible surface of the meat. Continue to turn it a little bit. Continue to baste it until I'm satisfied with the level of doneness. I'm shooting for a rare to medium rare with this cut. This is a hard working muscle, and if you overcook it, it can become tough. I'm happy with the way that looks, so I'm going to remove it to rest. Next, we're going to move on to a salsa. This is a simple little green salsa that we're going to make. It includes some lime, some cilantro, some green onion, some rosemary that I picked from my garden. There's some Serrano peppers, garlic, sun-dried tomato that we made, again, from tomatoes in our garden. There's some oregano, a little bit of rice wine vinegar. I'm going to use olive oil, salt, Worcestershire sauce, and pepper. We're going to take the vegetables, and we're just going to prep them. We're going to cut them into a small dice as you would want for a salsa. You can make it as chunky or as finely chopped as you like. What's important is that you make it the way you like it. It doesn't really matter how you like it, as long as you're happy with the end result. We're just going to chop the vegetables up and push them to the side. Next comes the cilantro. I'm going to bunch it up a little bit to make it easy to work with. And again, just chop it up finely. After the cilantro, we're going to grab the rosemary and we're going to strip it off the stems. Remember, I said I just picked this out of my garden. So just clean up the rosemary a little bit. Try not to leave any wooden stems behind, and I'm a little bit fastidious, so I don't like to waste any of it. Just go ahead and peel it all off. Now what you're left with are all the little fine rosemary leaves. and go ahead and chop those up finely. My knife is a little bit dull, so it takes a little bit of time. Just keep pushing them around, reorienting them, and then just continue to chop until they're as finely diced up as you like. Push them off to the side. Next comes the tomatoes. These are the sun-dried tomatoes. I'm just going to cut them into slices and turn them 90 degrees and then chop them finely. Again, push those to the side. Next come the serranos. Basically, I'm just cutting the flesh off the seeds. This is an approach to cleaning a serrano pepper. It helps you to remove the parts of the pepper which are very hot and just keep the flavorful flesh of the pepper, leaving behind the seeds and the ribs where most of the capsaicin is contained. I'm going to chop them up finely, about the same size as all the other vegetables that I've chopped up. What's useful when making a salsa is just to make sure that everything is uniform, so that you're not getting giant chunks of one thing and tiny pieces of another. Go ahead and scrape it all into a bowl. And then we're going to just moisten it with our acid and our oil. Oops, I forgot the garlic. So here comes some garlic. We're going to take 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. We're going to cut off the heads and the tails, the root end and the plant end. Crush them a little bit, and this helps loosen the paper that surrounds the clove. And then the paper falls off pretty easily. And then you can prep these either by slicing them finely, or you can chop them however you like. I decided to just push them through a garlic press. I really like this little Xylus garlic press. I've had it for a really long time. Next, we're going to use a whole lime. Just juice it into the salsa. I like the flavor of lime, but I can find it a little bit bitter sometimes. I'm going to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. That's about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. That helps sweeten it a little bit and also brighten the flavors. It adds a lot of umami, which is the 5th sense, or the 5th taste: sweet, sour, salt, bitter, and umami. Next comes a little bit of rice wine vinegar. You see there's 3 or 4 of those little teaspoons. Then I'm going to add some olive oil. I like the flavor of olive oil in this salsa. That's about a half a cup. I'm going to put a bit of oregano. I measure out about a tablespoon of oregano into my hand, but put as much as you like. If you really, really like the flavor of dried oregano, there's plenty there. I'm going to put about a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon or so of salt. And again, salt and pepper to taste. It's your dish, make it the way you like it. I'm going to put about a half a teaspoon of pepper, maybe a little bit more. Stir it up. And at this point, our salsa is finished. I'm just going to transfer it to another bowl for neatness. And I happen to be cooking some other things this day, so I'm going to use it in another dish later on. Now my meat is rested. As you can see, there aren't a whole lot of juices that came out of it because I let it rest properly before cutting it. Now I'm just going to slice it into pieces. This is a shoulder muscle, so it is a little bit tougher than, say, a tenderloin or a ribeye. And so I cut it against the grain. And next I'm going to take my salsa. I'm going to spoon it over, make it look attractive. Remember, one of the senses that we eat with is our eyes. If you make the food look good, it'll taste better. And next comes the taste test. And I can tell you that it was very good. And it was very simple. A little bit of salt and pepper on the meat, a simple little salsa after it was cooked, about 5 minutes in a hot pan to make it ready to go, and you have dinner.